Okay, so we're talking about mass media today. And when we're talking about mass media, understand that it's the television, the newspapers, magazines, anything that you can get popular, at a newsstand or a Best Buy or something like that. It's on TV, radio. Those kind of things are mass media. And we call it mass media because it can reach out to the public in general. High tech politics is going to be the way in which politics and technology has been integrated. How now, if you want to run for office or campaign, you're going to be using technology increasingly so. Now, candidates have their own websites, now, candidates have their own applications on smartphones. It is now a high tech system to run for office. The way that campaigns may use the mass media is going to be by staging media events. This is something that's supposed to maybe look spontaneous, but really they're intricately planned out to make the candidate look like he understands whatever the background is. If he's at a school, to make him strong in education. If he's at a factory, to make him strong for the middle class. All of these kind of stage media events are just a photo opportunity to present the candidate to the public in maybe a new way, or maybe making a strength based on how you stage the event. 60% of the presidential campaign, all the money they're going to spend is going to be in TV ads. Why? Because that's how you can reach the mass public. Now, YouTube may be a little bit bigger. You see them having internet ads, campaign ads on just online that they don't air anywhere on TV. So maybe it's moving even more high tech. Let's keep going. The development of media politics. Media wasn't always so important, especially the news. Really, the political party was. And then around FDR, these ideas of press conferences, the mass media holding public officials accountable, those came to be a little bit more in the mainstream. Roosevelt, promised 2 of these a week. Investigative journalism has now sprung up, where the media is kind of doing detective work and trying to find scandals and sex and violence and drugs and all those kind of things so that they can sell ratings, because that's how the news media makes money, is ratings and then commercial. Print media, this is maybe a dying media type. Newspapers and magazines are going away, whereas the internet and blogs are on the increase very quickly. Used to be this was the cheapest way, but now maybe online or website is cheaper. Companies have consolidated, especially now, so that people don't really read newspapers at the same in the same frequency. You have typically there used to be 3 or 4 newspapers for Dallas. Now there's just the Dallas Morning News, and that's part of a bigger corporation called Belo, which owns other newspapers all across the country. So this is an example how these companies, in order to survive, had consolidated. And as a result, you have major corporations controlling most of the print media, and now they're starting to get into news media as well. And here's a great graph that shows you the amount of daily newspapers that were sold per 1,000 adults. You can see that it was nearly half in 1960, and our numbers stop around 2000, and it's dropped almost by 50%. I would imagine even more so because the internet's just grown. Now, if a newspaper is going to be successful, they're going to have a great website. So that takes us to broadcast media. Remember, broadcast means that it can reach a large amount of people. And the example here would be television or radio, but not paid television. This is the free channels that you get, Fox and NBC and ABC, CBS. Those are broadcast channels. The HBO or Fox News, MSNBC, those are paid for programming, cable, satellite, and those are going to be more narrowcast. So broadcast, TV, and the radio, they're using government airwaves, government equipment to get their signal broadcast into people's homes. That's why the government can regulate them a little bit more, and this made politicians more aware of their appearance and mannerisms. We could definitely talk about the 1960s debate, how if you heard it on the radio, you believed Nixon won, but if you watched it on TV, because of the visual and the images, you believe that Kennedy won. Generally, broadcast news is the top source of news for most Americans, and it polls to be the most trustworthy. For some reason, people believe that newspapers are biased. So narrowcasting, this is cable TV, the internet, things you pay for that you're going to have ability to kind of filter yourself, right? You're not going to pick ABC or CBS where they are more mainstream. You're picking a Fox News and MSNBC, and they're aiming their message to a very particular audience. That's narrowcasting. Finding the news beats. This is maybe where one reporter is going to cover, for example, the White House or Congress. That is going to be their beat. You can kind of think of a cop the way that they go around. Trial balloons. This is the way maybe the again, politicians can use the media and intentionally news leak to see how this is going to be represented in the news and then by the people who watch the news. Reporters and the politicians, they depend on each other, and as a result they build a relationship, and sometimes that could be to the detriment of maybe our institutions and the media itself. This is going to be a graph about sound bites and the way that you see a clip being shown of just a speaker going. So, whereas in the 60s, people could handle nearly 3/4 of a minute, 45 seconds, today our attention span is about 7 seconds. So most sound bites, you can see that 15 seconds would not be accessible for today. You'd want to use about half that sound bite. So if you want to be a politician, you know this, and you're going to make sure that you have really catchy 7-second sayings so they get replayed over and over and over in the media. An example would be the "Yes, we can" during the 2008 Barack Obama campaign. There's 3 short words that kind of summarize this message of hope and positiveness. Many people believe that the news is biased, and there's been study after study after study that shows that there's really not an ideological balance between liberal or conservative. Yes, journalists may be liberal, but again, they're more educated. They're going to be attracted to a certain industry. All these kind of things might say why they lean towards being liberal, but the news that they cover themselves and the way they cover it is not going to have a bias towards it. They care about, their bias is profit, the biggest audience, so violence, anything that's going to make news. And know that the news is going to cover things that other people find important, but also this is a filtering effect, and the news can make certain things important that wouldn't otherwise be. So some policies can be made more important, others will be less important, depending on how they're covered in the news. If there is a big wildfire going on all summer long, and the news reports it all summer long, they might be missing less interesting political debates like sequestration or the fiscal cliff, or things that might be hard to explain to the public or boring to explain to the public when you could show them big pictures of fire going on in California. So news commentators, these trustworthy faces, these talking heads, can have the strongest effect about what makes the news and what gets on the political agenda at that point. So, the policy agenda, these are issues that attract serious attention of public officials and others who are involved in politics at the time. And if they're invested in these issues, they might be called policy entrepreneurs. And they are going to be aware of how they represent themselves to the mass media. Note that the media is supposed to, or in our greatest hope, would act as a watchdog that restricts what politicians do, that uncovers scandal or corruption, that the mass media is maybe an additional check or balance on our government. And new proposals are met with skepticism, and that restricts what the government can do. Newspapers and media are going to shoot down maybe big ideas that aren't mainstream because they're not mainstream. That's why the news is shutting them down. But if the media identifies a problem and then they're going to ask what the government's going to do to fix the problem, this is how they can get additional things on the policy agenda. And now candidates can run on their own. They don't need that political party as much as they did 100 or 150 years ago. And as a result, they can get media attention. They can create their own media, their own websites. But when the media is covering people, understand that the media would rather cover the president because it's easier. It's one person as opposed to covering 535 members of Congress or the Supreme Court and then the lower courts, or all these kind of complications are hard to explain to the American public. So if they're going to cover news or they're going to cover politics in the news, they're most likely going to be able to show a 7-second soundbite of what the president said today. And as a result, the president's voice is going to be so much louder than any single member of Congress. So when we talk about the bully pulpit, and the president being able to get things on the policy agenda that Congress can't, it's because of this. It's because the news is attracted to covering the president because it's easier. Again, we hope that the news and the mass media is going to act as a watchdog, restricting government or informing the public of critical information they need. But is now the news more entertainment than it is informative? That's a debate we could definitely have. So I hope this helped, and good luck studying.